December 8th, 1941. Before sunrise, while most of America slept, bundles of newspapers hit doorsteps. Inside, words in black capitals: attacked, bombed, war. The radios crackled with bulletins of devastation in Hawaii, but no one yet knew just how far this conflict would reach. On this first morning after Pearl Harbor, as the nation awoke to headlines and confusion, one question lingered everywhere: what would happen next? Before the first headline lands on a doorstep, the city holds its breath. The hour is just past 3 in the morning. Streetlights flicker against the cold, empty sidewalks. Shop windows are dark, curtains drawn tight in row houses and apartments above. There's a hush broken only by the distant rumble of delivery trucks, tires hissing against wet pavement, engines echoing off brick and stone. In alleyways, the metallic clatter of a printing press fades to memory as the last bundles are loaded for delivery. Most windows stay dark. The only movement comes from the rare insomniac or a milkman starting his rounds. For a moment, the world is unchanged. The attack on Pearl Harbor, 7:55 a.m. in Hawaii, still only a rumor in the dreams of most Americans, has not yet entered these streets. Radios, left on overnight in kitchens and parlors, emit a faint static or the low murmur of music, waiting for the next bulletin. The city's usual pre-dawn rhythm, soft footsteps, the occasional barking dog, feels thinner, as if the air itself is holding back. A lone carrier pedals his bicycle through the fog, canvas bag heavy with the weight of news. He glances at the headlines stamped in thick black ink, not yet fully grasping the words: war, attack, bombed. The first bundle thuds onto a stoop, the sound swallowed by the silence. In a few hours, these quiet neighborhoods will stir. Doors will open, slippers will shuffle across linoleum, and hands will fumble for the morning paper. But for now, the city remains suspended between two worlds: the familiar calm of yesterday and the uncertain dawn of a nation at war. Somewhere, a clock strikes 4. Delivery boys hurry along deserted avenues, their breath clouding in the chill. Each paper left behind is a silent messenger, carrying the first full account of a day that changed everything. In these moments, before the country wakes, the news waits, folded, unread, poised to break the silence. The city clock tower reads 5 as the first light creeps over rooftops. On every block, the routine unfolds with a new weight. Carriers, some on bicycles, others on foot, move quickly, their canvas satchels dragging against their shoulders. Each bundle is heavier than usual, the newsprint thick with extra pages and bold new headlines. The slap of the bundle against each porch is louder than it should be, a sound that cuts through the stillness. In some neighborhoods, the only other noise is the faint rattle of a Remington typewriter still echoing from the press rooms, now distant and fading. Tom Miller, a carrier on the east side, pulls his cap low against the cold. He's been up since before 4, hands numb from the damp air. The stack on his handlebars feels different, heavier, awkward, as if the news itself resists being delivered. He moves from house to house, each step measured, each paper landing with a dull thud. Some porches are slick with dew, others cluttered with milk bottles or yesterday's shoes. He pauses at the corner of Maple and 6th, shifting the weight of the remaining papers. "Never seen a bundle this thick," he mutters, remembering the hurried voices at the distribution depot, the way the foreman pressed the stack into his arms with a look that said everything had changed. In the half-light, the first silhouettes begin to appear behind frosted glass. A front door creaks open. A hand, pale and uncertain, reaches for the paper. The carrier's breath hangs in the air as he watches. Just for a moment, the paper exchanged for a startled glance. It's not just a routine delivery anymore. The headlines are too large, the ink too dark. The news is no longer just a story from somewhere else. It has arrived on the doorstep, in the hands of neighbors who will read the words before the sun is fully up. With each house, the city comes a little closer to waking. The carrier's route is nearly done. He moves on, shoes scuffing the sidewalk, the last few papers tucked under his arm. Behind him, the silence is broken. The day's first readers stand in doorways, staring down at the front page, the world as they knew it slipping away with every line of print. A homeowner stands at the threshold, cold air curling around his ankles as the paper lands at his feet. He bends, picks it up, and the front page nearly fills his hands. The New York Times has chosen its words with care, but not restraint. The headline, set in 48-point black Gothic type, stretches across the width of the page: Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. Beneath, a red subhead: Many killed, battleships hit. The letters are stark, unblinking, pressed deep into the newsprint. Just below, a boxed summary offers the first numbers. More than 2,400 Americans reported dead, though editors warn the count is not final. The USS Arizona is listed among the battleships lost, its fate already a symbol of the devastation. On the West Coast, the Los Angeles Times greets its readers with a headline that seems to shout, "Japs open war on US with bombing of Hawaii." The font is even larger, the ink nearly bleeding through the page. A red subhead cuts across the column: Japan assaulted every main United States and British possession. The text below describes a dawn sky over Pearl Harbor filled with carrier-launched planes, the attack called shrewdly planned and without warning. The casualty box is prominent: 2,403 dead, 1,178 wounded, though the editors admit the figure is shifting by the hour. The loss of the Arizona is spelled out in a single, chilling line: Battleship Arizona destroyed. In the Midwest, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch delivers its own reckoning. The headline, set in bold caps, reads, "Congress declares war on Japan. 1,500 killed in attack on Hawaii." The numbers are provisional, reflecting the chaos of the previous day. A red ink subhead draws the reader's eye to the Pacific Fleet's damage, listing Oklahoma and Arizona among the stricken ships. The casualty figures are printed in a box at the center of the page, a grim tally that will be revised as more details emerge. Every headline, every font choice, every box of numbers signals a rupture. The scale of loss is only beginning to register. On these front pages, the war is not an abstraction. It is a list of dead and wounded, a ship burning in the harbor, a nation stunned into a new reality. The papers do not offer comfort. They offer the facts, as stark as the morning light breaking over the city. Inside the pages, certainty takes shape. On page A6 of the New York Times, President Roosevelt's words appear in 24-point italics, set off from the dense columns of war bulletins and casualty lists. The address is printed nearly in full, the most quoted line already echoing across the country. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The language is measured but unyielding. Roosevelt's statement, clipped for print, spells out the facts as they were known. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. Very many American lives have been lost. The words are direct, chosen for clarity and weight. There is no speculation, no hint of panic, only the recognition of loss and the need for action. Below the address, a boxed summary details Congress's response. The vote is printed in bold: 388 to 1 in the House, 82 to 0 in the Senate. The lone dissent, Jeanette Rankin of Montana, is named in a single line, a footnote to a unanimous resolve. The rest of the page is dense with updates: the time of the declaration, the formal language of the war resolution, and the signatures that make it law. The typography itself seems to underline the moment: no embellishment, just stark black type against the white of the page. Editorials in the same edition urge unity, but it is Roosevelt's address that anchors the morning. The phrase "state of war has existed" is repeated in headlines and sidebars, as if to remind readers that the world they woke to is not the one they knew the day before. The congressional record, cited in the margin, confirms the numbers: 311 to 0 in the House for the formal declaration, with Rankin's solitary no standing apart. The morning's uncertainty is answered, at least in part, by the clarity of official words and the overwhelming vote count. For millions reading these columns, Resolve is no longer just a feeling, it is now the law of the land, fixed in print. Radios left on overnight become the first voices to break the morning's silence. At 8:15 a.m. Eastern, NBC interrupts its scheduled music with a clipped bulletin. Japanese planes have bombed Pearl Harbor. Reports of heavy damage to the Pacific Fleet. Details are still coming in. The words land flat, unadorned, as if the announcer is still searching for the shape of what happened. Static lingers between updates. By 8:30, CBS offers its own summary. Short, cautious, uncertain. There has been a surprise attack on the American base at Pearl Harbor. The extent of the damage is not yet known. The president will address Congress later today. No one claims to have the full story. Wire services feed fragments, casualty numbers fluctuate, ship names are withheld, and the only certainty is that the news is bad. The anchors read from slips of paper, their voices measured, pausing to let the gravity settle. Helen Baker's voice, familiar to morning listeners, slips into the mix. She reads the latest wire. Naval authorities confirm an attack by Japanese aircraft. Americans are urged to remain calm and await official statements. Across the country, families gather around kitchen tables, coffee cooling as they strain to catch every word. The radio is both a lifeline and a source of confusion. Updates arrive in bursts, sometimes minutes apart, sometimes not at all. Some bulletins repeat what is already known. Others walk back earlier claims. The uncertainty lingers, hanging in the air with the smell of burnt toast and brewing coffee, as Americans wait for news that still refuses to settle into certainty. Editorial pages in Chicago and Los Angeles fill with voices that refuse to be quiet. The Chicago Tribune Morning Edition prints a letter from a reader in West Virginia, unsigned except for the town. The letter reads, "This treachery cannot go unanswered. We must act, and we must act now." The words are raw, the ink still fresh, as if urgency alone could summon a response. Letters like this crowd the columns, some angry, some afraid, all demanding resolve. A mother in Oak Park writes, "My son is in the Navy. I don't know where. I only hope he's safe. But whatever comes, we stand together." Editorials press for unity. The Tribune board calls for decisive action, quoting Roosevelt's address and urging readers to put aside politics. Tonight, the war becomes a world war in grim earnest. Runs the Los Angeles Times, the phrase "set apart" in bold. The call for national purpose is everywhere, in headlines, in sidebars, in the letters from farmers, factory workers, and teachers. Outside the columns, action follows words. By dawn, recruiting offices in cities like Chicago and Los Angeles see lines forming. Young men, some barely out of high school, wait in overcoats for a chance to enlist. The rush is so great that officials hand out numbers, telling the crowd to return later. Newspapers record the surge, running photos of would-be soldiers and sailors crowding the sidewalks, the caption reading simply, "Youths rush to join Navy." The country's mood is not just shock, but a sudden, determined unity. Fear lingers, but so does a sense of purpose. In the aftermath of the headlines, Americans find themselves bound together by the weight of the morning's news. Across the Atlantic, editors in London gathered wire dispatches beneath the glow of blackout lamps. The Times of London set its headline in measured type, "Japanese attack on U.S. fleet at Hawaii." Yet the focus drifted quickly to British territories, Malaya and Hong Kong, where the first bombs had already fallen. In Aberdeen, the Press and Journal listed the assault on Pearl Harbor alongside news of Japanese landings in Singapore. For many in Britain, the American calamity was one front in a broader Pacific storm. Churchill's voice, relayed through the BBC, sounded almost relieved as he declared war on Japan hours before Roosevelt spoke to Congress. "It only remains now for the two great democracies to face their tasks," ran the editorial in the Times, its tone both grave and resolute. Australian papers, like the Sydney Morning Herald, echoed the urgency. Their columns spoke of Allied solidarity, but headlines warned of a new Pacific battlefield. The world's balance had shifted overnight, yet the shape of the conflict remained blurred. An unnamed military analyst, quoted in the morning's edition, offered a quiet warning. The Pacific is now the axis on which the fate of the democracies may turn, but the scale of the struggle is impossible to predict. Everywhere, the facts were incomplete. No one could say how many ships had been lost, or whether the Japanese fleet still prowled the ocean. Rumors of further attacks circled in London and Sydney, but editors held back from speculation. The only certainty was uncertainty itself. For readers abroad, as for Americans, the morning's headlines left more questions than answers. How wide would the war spread? How long would it last? The world stood at the edge of something vast, its outlines still hidden in shadow. In a single morning, headlines reshaped how a nation saw itself and its place in the world. The shock of uncertainty forged unity, but also set a precedent. Information, true or unconfirmed, still shapes our collective response to crisis. Even now, the way we wake up to world-changing news defines who we become next. What we do with that first morning matters most. Share your thoughts below.